Powers and exponents refer to the same thing. And when you have a power or an exponent, it involves multiplication. So let's review a couple of multiplication terms before we get started. When you have a factor is two or more numbers that are multiplied together. So in this sentence down here, number 2 is a factor and number 3 is a factor. And just so you don't forget, the answer we would get would be called a product. Okay? Now, exponents are a shortcut way to write a multiplication problem when you have the same factor that's repeated over and over again. So let me show you. In this multiplication sentence, I have 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So I have that factor 5 multiplied over and over again. The way we would write this using an exponent is you take the factor that is repeated and you write that as your base. Okay? So your base is the factor that's being multiplied over and over again. Now your power or your exponent tells you how many times you're going to multiply that base. So when you look at your problem, what you want to do is find out how many times do we multiply this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 times that we multiply 5. So my exponent is going to be a 4. That's going to be my exponent. So the base is the factor that you use over and over again, and this tells you how many times. So we have 5 4 times, which we can see down here. Okay, there may be a couple things that you're going to be asked to do. The first is to take some multiplication sentences that are written out with repeated factors and write them using exponents. So again, the way you do this, you want to figure out what factor is being multiplied over and over again. In this case, it's 3. So 3 becomes your base. And then your exponent tells us how many times we multiply that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our exponent would be 6. So we would say 3 to the 6th power. Or 3 to the power of 6 can also be said. Another thing you might be asked to do is to take something that's written with exponents and write it as a product. Now a product means we want to write it out as a big long multiplication sentence. So again, the factor we have is 7. That means we're going to multiply 7 over and over. And the exponent tells us how many times? 3 times. So I need 7 3 times. Okay? Now, the next part it says, then evaluate. So then evaluate means that what you want to do is find your answer to this problem. So you do 7 times 7, which is 49, and then 49 times 7, which gives us an answer of 343. Okay? And finally, last but not least, you might see problems like this one that involve exponents, but you also have to remember your order of operations. Remember, with order of operations, parentheses come first, then exponents, then we would either multiply or divide, whichever comes first in our problem, and then add or subtract. So when I look at this expression, I see some exponents. I don't have any parentheses, so I'm going to start with my exponents first. So my 8 plus 5 stay the same, but 3 to the 2nd, remember that's 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So there's my exponents. Now my next step, no more exponents. I'm going to either multiply or divide. So right here, I've got my multiplication. So I've got 8 plus 5 times 9 is 45. And then finally my last step, 8 plus 45 gives me 53. And that's how you use powers and exponents.